From Dallas McCarver, the youngest athlete ever to earn an IFBB Pro card who ended up dying to cardiovascular problems, to Arnold Schwarzenegger, the 7-time Mr. Olympia winner who secretly suffered from a congenital heart defect. These are famous bodybuilders who secretly had deadly diseases. Andreas Munzer. In bodybuilding history, there are names that echo through the decades not just for what they achieved in life, but for what their deaths revealed about the sport itself. Andreas Munzer, born in 1964 in the small Austrian town of Pack, was a young man who grew up inspired by one of his countrymen, the legendary Arnold Schwarzenegger. By the time he was a teenager, Munzer had already begun his journey into the world of bodybuilding, and by the mid-1980s, he was rising through the amateur ranks with a physique that would come to define an era. What made Munzer famous, or perhaps infamous, was his conditioning. People who saw him compete would describe his skin as paper thin, so shredded that every single muscle fiber seemed visible to the naked eye. He earned his IFBB Pro card in 1988 after placing third at the World Amateur Championships, and his professional career saw him consistently finish in the top 10 at multiple Mr. Olympia competitions, including a 7th place finish in 1994 and a 3rd place finish at the 1993 Arnold Classic. His training intensity incorporated German volume methods adapted specifically for his extreme cutting protocols. But what the audience never saw was the devastation happening inside his body. In the months leading up to his final competitions in 1996, Munzer was experiencing severe abdominal pain, the kind of pain that would send most people running to the hospital. But he pushed through, competing at the Arnold Classic and the San Jose Pro, hiding his agony from everyone around him to avoid scrutiny in a drug-skeptical Germany. On March 14, 1996, at just 31 years old, Andreas Munzer collapsed. Emergency surgery revealed what years of extreme diuretic and steroid abuse had done. His liver and kidneys had essentially disintegrated, his body fat was virtually non-existent, and his organs simply gave out. The tragedy made headlines, with Der Spiegel covering it as a steroid scandal. His autopsy sent shockwaves through the sport, and his death became a cautionary tale that still haunts bodybuilding to this day, leaving behind a fiancé and siblings who mourned a man whose pursuit of perfection cost everything. Rich Piana. If there was ever a bodybuilder who embodied the idea of living life at full throttle without apology, it was Rich Piana. Born in 1970 in Glendale, California, Piana came from bodybuilding royalty of sorts. His mother was a competitive bodybuilder herself, which meant that by the age of 11, young Rich was already spending his days in the gym. By 18, he had claimed the title of NPC Mr. Teen California, and his career was just getting started. But Piana was never really about chasing Olympia titles or collecting the same trophies that other pros coveted. No, Rich Piana became something different altogether. He became a cultural phenomenon. Through his YouTube channel and Instagram, where he amassed over 1 million followers, Piana shared everything: his training, his tattoo sessions, his romantic relationships, and perhaps most controversially, his completely honest discussions about steroid use. He was the anti-establishment bodybuilder, the one who called out the hypocrisy of an industry that pretended PEDs didn't exist. His business ventures, particularly 5% Nutrition, made him millions. He acted in films. He lived the lifestyle that most people only dream about. But beneath all the bravado and the muscle and the flashy cars, Rich Piana was fighting battles that even his millions of fans didn't fully understand. Warning signs like fatigue and cardiac red flags appeared weeks before his collapse, but he downplayed them publicly, continuing workouts and denying concerns. In August of 2017, Piana collapsed at his home, falling into a coma from which he would never recover. He was 46 years old. His autopsy revealed enlarged organs and damage consistent with decades of extreme substance use. His partner, Chanel Jansen, witnessed his final moments and later spoke about the tragedy while grieving. The BBC reported on his death as the bodybuilding world grappled with the loss of one of its most polarizing figures. His 5% Nutrition empire left in limbo as fans debated whether his influence was inspirational or reckless. Dallas McCarver. Sometimes in the world of bodybuilding, a young athlete emerges who seems destined for greatness, someone who has all the tools, all the potential, all the charisma to become the next face of the sport. Dallas McCarver, nicknamed Big Country for his Southern Tennessee roots and his genuinely humble demeanor, was exactly that kind of athlete. Born in 1991 in Chattanooga, McCarver achieved something remarkable at just 21 years old. He became the youngest athlete ever to earn an IFBB Pro card by winning the 2012 North American Championships. His professional career exploded from there. He won the 2015 California State Pro and the 2016 Chicago Pro. He finished 8th at the 2016 Mr. Olympia, and everyone in the industry was watching him, waiting for the moment when he would ascend to the very top of the sport. At 300 pounds in the offseason, with mass that rivaled the legends and an aesthetic appeal that set him apart, McCarver was the future. He partnered with Redcon One for endorsements, launched Outgrow Your Ego clothing, and was dating WWE star Dana Brooke while maintaining close ties with roommate Josh Lenardowicz. But behind closed doors, Dallas was dealing with health issues that he never fully disclosed to the public. At the 2017 Arnold Classic Australia, he collapsed on stage during prejudging, an alarming incident that he publicly blamed on a respiratory infection and bronchitis, not the deeper issues brewing within. What the official autopsy report would later reveal was far more disturbing. His heart was nearly triple the normal size, ravaged by atherosclerosis and the strain of pushing his body to such extreme limits. Medical experts noted the cardiovascular devastation that had occurred. On August 22, 2017, at just 26 years old, Dallas McCarver was found dead in his home amid food prep. The bodybuilding world lost one of its brightest young stars, and the debates about the true cost of the sport's demands grew louder than ever before. His girlfriend and roommate left grieving a kind soul lost to ambition's toll. Nasser El Sonbaty. They called him the Professor, and for good reason. Nasser El Sonbaty, born in 1965 in Stuttgart, Germany, to Egyptian parents, was unlike any other bodybuilder of his generation. While his competitors spent their time entirely focused on the gym, El Sonbaty was earning degrees in history, political science, and sociology from the University of Augsburg. He spoke 7 languages fluently and brought an intellectual approach to a sport not particularly known for academia. But make no mistake, El Sonbaty could more than hold his own on stage. Standing 5 feet 11 inches at 270 pounds of dense, symmetrical muscle, he placed in the top 4 at Mr. Olympia multiple times throughout his career, including a controversial second-place finish in 1997 that many believed should have been first. He won the 1999 Arnold Classic, defeating rivals like the legendary Flex Wheeler, and his presence in the sport was undeniable. He trained with Milos Sarcev and critiqued the industry openly, though his relationship with Sarcev eventually soured. What El Sonbaty kept hidden, however, was the kidney failure that was slowly destroying his body. Years of diuretic and steroid use had taken their toll, and by the time he was forced to retire in 2007, he was dependent on dialysis to survive. His heart had been so damaged that he was deemed ineligible for a transplant due to weakness. In his final years, the man they called the Professor retreated from the spotlight, selling memorabilia online and harboring bitterness toward the judges and peers he felt had wronged him. On March 20th, 2013, Nasser El Sonbaty died in his sleep in Cairo, Egypt, at just 47 years old, his intellect overshadowed by health woes linked to the sport's demands, shocking friends and family who mourned this complex figure. Mike Mentzer. Before there was high-intensity training as we know it today, before there were debates about volume versus intensity that dominate fitness forums across the internet, there was Mike Mentzer, the man who challenged everything the bodybuilding establishment believed about how to build muscle. Born in 1951 in Philadelphia, Mentzer served in the Air Force before finding his calling in the weight room, and when he discovered the principles of Arthur Jones's high-intensity training methodology, he became its most passionate evangelist. Mentzer's competitive achievements were extraordinary. The 1976 Mr. America title, a perfect score at the 1978 Mr. Universe, and the 1979 heavyweight Mr. Olympia crown. His physique was remarkable, but it was his mind that truly set him apart. He authored books like Heavy Duty that revolutionized how people thought about training, and he mentored future champions like Dorian Yates. His philosophical leanings toward objectivism intertwined with his fitness ideology, creating a unique intellectual framework for bodybuilding. But Mentzer's life was marked by struggle as well as triumph. After his mother's death in 1979, he battled amphetamine addiction, and his controversial boycott of the 1980 Olympia, which he believed was rigged, left him bitter toward the sport's politics. What few knew was that heart disease was silently stalking him. Atherosclerotic damage, compounded by family genetics and years of smoking, had been causing silent heart attacks that went undetected. In June 2001, blood clots and pneumonia surfaced, but he continued working on DVD projects, downplaying his condition. On June 10, 2001, Mike Mentzer died at 49 years old. Just 2 days later, his brother Ray, also a bodybuilder, passed away as well, compounding the tragedy. The bodybuilding community mourned the loss of a true innovator whose contributions to training philosophy continue to influence athletes to this day. Greg Kovacs. When people talk about the biggest bodybuilders who ever lived, not the most successful, not the most decorated, but the physically largest human beings to ever step on a bodybuilding stage, one name inevitably rises to the top of that conversation: Greg Kovacs. Born in 1968 in Niagara Falls, Ontario, Kovacs was a genetic anomaly from the very beginning. By high school, he already weighed over 200 pounds without any formal training whatsoever, his frame seemingly designed by nature to carry muscle mass that defied comprehension. When Kovacs fully committed to bodybuilding, the results were staggering. At 6 feet 4 inches, he would reach 420 pounds in the off-season and 330 pounds on stage, with measurements that read like fiction: 25-inch arms, a 70-inch chest, and 35-inch thighs. He turned pro in 1996 after winning the Canadian Nationals heavyweight class and became legendary for his strength feats, 700-pound bench presses and 900-pound squats for reps. While he never won major titles, finishing 13th at the 2004 Arnold Classic being his best showing, his guest posing appearances and magazine covers made him a fan favorite. Personally, Kovacs was a devoted family man. He married Kim in the 1990s and fathered 2 children, Axel and Alexa, while running a supplement business in Mississauga. But the strain of maintaining such an enormous physique was destroying his cardiovascular system. Cardiac hypertrophy from prolonged steroid and growth hormone use, combined with the sheer stress of carrying so much body weight, began manifesting as fatigue and shortness of breath in his 40s, symptoms he concealed to maintain his mass monster image and income from appearances. On November 22, 2013, at just 44 years old, Greg Kovacs suffered a massive heart attack and died. His death orphaned his young children and widowed Kim, who later spoke of his gentle nature that so starkly contrasted with his intimidating physique, a stark warning about the physical toll of pursuing extreme mass at any cost. Boston Lloyd. In an industry built on secrecy and denial, Boston Lloyd was something entirely different, a man who ripped the curtain away and showed the world exactly what it takes to build an extreme physique, consequences be damned. Born in 1992 in Spring Hill, Florida, Lloyd grew up immersed in bodybuilding culture. Both his parents were competitive athletes, and they owned a Gold's Gym franchise. By 15, he was already lifting seriously, and by 18, he was competing. But it was Lloyd's infamous 2013 video that changed everything. In it, he detailed his extreme PED protocols, 5,760 milligrams weekly stacks that made other bodybuilders' cycles look like vitamin regimens. He built a massive YouTube following of over 500,000 subscribers by being the whistleblower the sport had never seen, discussing synthol, site enhancement oils, and every other taboo topic that professionals refused to acknowledge. He won the 2014 NPC California State overall and launched Big Daddy B supplements, co-starring in the documentary Get Big or Die Trying. But Lloyd's transparency came with devastating personal costs. His father died of an overdose in 2015, which fueled his anti-hypocrisy stance even further. He married Ariella Palumbo in 2018 and fathered a son, Colton. Then came the consequences he had been warned about. In 2020, experimental peptides like adipotide destroyed his kidneys, leading to stage 5 kidney failure, something he admitted on podcasts while still downplaying his ongoing PED use. On February 25, 2022, at just 29 years old, Boston Lloyd suffered an aortic dissection and died. His autopsy confirmed the vascular damage that years of extreme protocols had caused. He left behind Ariella and Colton, who inherited his business amid grief, a mixed legacy of boldness and tragedy that sparked industry reckonings about the true cost of transparency in a sport built on lies. Cedric McMillan. There was something different about Cedric McMillan, something that set him apart from the mass monsters and the freaky physiques that dominated modern bodybuilding. Born in 1977 in Maplewood, New Jersey, McMillan enlisted in the U.S. Army at just 17 years old, serving as an instructor while discovering bodybuilding during his deployments. He turned pro in 2009 after winning the NPC National Super Heavyweight division, and what emerged was a physique that seemed to harken back to the golden era. At 6 feet 1 inch and 270 pounds, McMillan possessed wide shoulders, a vacuum pose, and the flowing lines that champions of the 1970s made famous. His 2017 Arnold Classic triumph over rivals like Dallas McCarver announced him as a force in the sport. He competed in 7 Olympias, peaking at 7th in 2016 and 2019, and became known as the Soldier's Bodybuilder, a man who balanced tours in Iraq with family life, fathering 7 children while serving as a staff sergeant. But McMillan's health was failing in ways he tried desperately to hide. A 2020 bike crash left lasting damage. COVID-19 pneumonia in 2021 nearly killed him. He was on life support, an experience he shared vaguely but minimized to planned comebacks. He concealed breathing issues post-COVID to maintain sponsorships, determined to return to the Olympia stage. On April 12, 2022, at 44 years old, Cedric McMillan suffered a fatal heart attack. The bodybuilding community was devastated, mourning a man whose humility and military service made him beloved. His large family was left without a patriarch, and tributes poured in from across the industry. The irony of a soldier surviving combat only to fall to the demands of his sport not lost on anyone. Shawn Rhoden. The story of Shawn Rhoden is one of the most remarkable underdog tales in bodybuilding history, a journey from the streets of Jamaica to the pinnacle of the sport, only to have it all come crashing down in ways no one could have predicted. Born in 1975 in Jamaica, Rhoden immigrated to Maryland at age 11, overcoming a tough childhood marked by his father's death. He played soccer before discovering bodybuilding in the 1990s, eventually earning his pro card in 2010 after NPC North American wins. What followed was a steady climb to the top. Rhoden placed 3rd at the 2011 2011 Mr. Olympia, then second in 2016. He won shows like the 2012 Europa Super Show and 2014 Australia Pro, building a reputation for his symmetrical, flowing physique at 5 feet 10 inches and 245 pounds. Then came 2018, the year Shawn Rhoden shocked the world by defeating Phil Heath, ending Heath's 7-year reign and becoming the oldest Mr. Olympia winner in history at 43 years old. But triumph quickly turned to tragedy. In 2019, Rhoden was accused of rape, charges he vehemently denied, leading to his ban from IFBB competition. He kept a low profile amid legal battles, hiding fatigue while focusing on appeals for reinstatement. The man who had battled alcohol addiction post-injuries, who had married Michelle Sugar in 2018, and fathered daughter Cora, who had documented his resilience in the Flexitron documentary. This man was fighting battles on multiple fronts. On November 6, 2021, at 46 years old, Shawn Rhoden died of a heart attack. His death shocked the community, voiding any chance at a redemption arc and overshadowing his Olympia triumph with controversy. He left behind Michelle and Cora, his rags to riches tale ending in a way that was as poignant as it was tragic. George Peterson. They called him Da Bull, Dubu, and the nickname fit perfectly. George Peterson, born around 1984 in New York City, came to bodybuilding through an unlikely path. He was an amateur boxer first, incorporating weight training before fully committing to the iron game in his 20s. He earned his pro card in 2016 by winning the inaugural NPC Nationals Classic Physique division, and what followed was a career marked by remarkable versatility. Peterson competed in both Classic Physique and 212 divisions, claiming the 2017 Tampa Pro and finishing third at that year's Olympia. His crowning achievement came at the 2019 Arnold Classic Physique, where he defeated Steve Laureus to claim the title. At 5 feet 7 inches and 210 pounds, his dense, proportionate build made him a fan favorite across both divisions. He placed third at the 2020 212 Olympia and consistently finished in the top 3 in classic competitions. Personally, he was a devoted family man, running a coaching business while engaging over 340,000 Instagram followers with his humble demeanor. What made George Peterson's death so shocking was its timing. On October 6, 2021, just days before the Olympia where he was expected to compete, Peterson was found dead in his hotel room. There had been no prior public symptoms. He had appeared fully prepped in check-ins, ready to contend for a title. The autopsy revealed the truth: cardiac dysrhythmia caused by hypertensive heart disease, with anabolic steroids including Boldenone and stanozolol listed as contributing factors. He had likely masked fatigue from contest prep. At just 37 years old, George Peterson was gone, leaving his family reeling and the bodybuilding community asking what if, a gentle soul lost to the sport's rigors, his potential forever unfulfilled. Mohammed Benaziza. Before many of the names on this list were even born, Mohammed Benaziza was already earning a reputation that would outlast his tragically short life. Born in 1959 in Algeria and raised in France, Benaziza began as a youth soccer player, incorporating gym work for fitness before fully committing to bodybuilding. His amateur rise was swift, winning competitions in Spain before claiming first place at the 1987 IFBB World Amateur Championships in the lightweight division. When Benaziza turned pro, he did something remarkable at the 1990 Night of Champions. He defeated a young Dorian Yates, who placed second. This earned him Joe Weider's nickname Killer of Giants, an apt description for a man who, despite his compact 5 feet 3 inches frame, consistently toppled larger opponents through superior conditioning and legendary back development. His back work would later inspire Yates to obsess over that body part, contributing to Yates' own dominant career. Benaziza won Grand Prix events across England, France, Germany, Holland, and Italy, placing respectably at multiple Mr. Olympias. But on October 4th, 1992, just hours after competing in a Dutch show, Mohammed Benaziza collapsed and died. He was only 33 years old. The cause was diuretic abuse, likely a Lasix overload, combined with a mysterious injection from an unknown source intended to speed his contest prep. He had complained of sickness and shortness of breath, but refused hospital care multiple times, hiding the severity to preserve his rising star image. Benaziza's death shocked his peers and ended the career of close friend Steve Brisbois, who left the sport in grief. His legacy shifted from potential dominance to a stark warning about extreme prep risks. Dorian Yates among those who paid tribute, crediting Benaziza for breakthroughs in back training while mourning a man whose ambition and denial cost him everything. Flex Wheeler. When Arnold Schwarzenegger, the greatest bodybuilder of all time, calls you one of the greatest physiques he has ever seen, you know you've achieved something extraordinary. Kenneth Flex Wheeler, born in 1965 in Fresno, California, earned that praise through a combination of genetics, artistry, and perseverance that few could match. But his journey to that point was anything but easy. Wheeler's childhood was marked by poverty, abuse, dyslexia, and suicidal thoughts. He found solace in martial arts, Kenpo, Taekwondo, and Aikido variants, viewing himself as a martial artist first, bodybuilder second. His flexibility earned him the nickname Flex. After a brief stint as a police officer, he turned pro in the early 1990s and amassed an astounding 16 contest wins, a record 4 Arnold Classics, multiple Ironman Pro titles, Night of Champions victories, and numerous Grand Prix triumphs. At 5 feet 9 inches and 215 to 220 pounds, his symmetry, aesthetics, and vacuum poses made him the standard by which others were judged. He placed second at Mr. Olympia multiple times, often controversially behind Dorian Yates. But in 1999, Flex Wheeler received devastating news. He had been diagnosed with focal segmental glomerulosclerosis, a hereditary kidney disease. Despite his insistence that genetics were to blame, PEDUs had accelerated the condition. He downplayed early symptoms to sustain contracts and his image, but the diagnosis led to lost endorsements and financial strain. Contracts ran like the Black Plague, he later recalled. Wheeler was forced to retire in 2000, though he competed sporadically until 2003. He underwent a kidney transplant in 2003. Then, in 2019, came another blow. Partial leg amputation due to circulatory issues tied to prior injuries and transplant effects. Through it all, Wheeler has documented his recovery on social media, transforming from stage icon to survivor mentor, turning a lifelong condition into a platform for advocacy and awareness. Ronnie Coleman. There may never be another bodybuilder like Ronnie Coleman. Born in 1964 in Bastrop, Louisiana, Coleman played football in college before a police officer job in Arlington, Texas led him to Metroflex Gym, where owner Brian Dobson recognized his potential. He turned pro in 1992 after NPC wins, but his true dominance began in 1998, the start of 8 consecutive Mr. Olympia titles that cemented his place as one of the greatest ever. At 5 feet 11 inches and over 300 pounds in contest shape, Coleman was the ultimate mass monster. His strength was legendary, 800-pound squats for reps, deadlifts that made the bar bend, and a work ethic encapsulated in his famous catchphrase, "Lightweight, baby." He won 26 pro shows total, including the 2001 Arnold Classic, but that strength came at a devastating cost. Coleman's body was being destroyed from the inside. His spine required over 13 surgeries on his back, hips, and neck from the damage caused by decades of heavy lifting. He hid escalating pain during his prime to keep competing, but post-retirement, the agony became public, at times leaving him wheelchair-dependent. Then, in early 2025, came the closest call yet. Coleman contracted sepsis, a life-threatening blood infection that put him into a coma, required intubation, and dropped his heart function to just 20%. He nearly died, but Ronnie Coleman survived, because that's what Ronnie Coleman does. With his wife Susan's support, he has launched the Ronnie Strong Sepsis Awareness Campaign, turning his physical decline into advocacy for health vigilance, proving that even legends must face their mortality. Arnold Schwarzenegger. He is, without question, the most famous bodybuilder who has ever lived. Arnold Schwarzenegger, born in 1947 in Thal, Austria, discovered bodybuilding at 15 and never looked back. He won Junior Mr. Europe before moving to the United States in 1968, where he would claim 7 Mr. Olympia titles between 1970 and 1980, plus 5 Mr. Universe victories. He pioneered mass with aesthetics, became a Hollywood icon through the Terminator franchise, and served as governor of California. His life has been one of relentless achievement, but there has always been a secret that Arnold carried with him, a congenital heart defect that he inherited from his mother and grandmother. Arnold was born with a bicuspid aortic valve, meaning his aortic valve has only 2 leaflets instead of the normal 3. For decades, he monitored it carefully while keeping it private to maintain his image of invincibility. In 1997, the defect required surgical intervention, a Ross procedure to replace the valve. In 2020, he underwent a non-invasive re-replacement procedure. Then, in 2024, came another surgery, this time to implant a pacemaker to address irregular heart rhythms caused by scar tissue from his previous operations. Through it all, Arnold has been remarkably open about his gratitude. "I'm still here because of innovation," he has said, turning his lifelong condition into a platform for heart health awareness. At 77 years old, he remains active, proving that even congenital defects cannot stop a man determined to live life on his own terms. Careful scheduling and medical vigilance allowing his multifaceted career to continue. Lee Priest. Lee Priest, born in 1972 in Wallsend, Australia, showed prodigious talent from an impossibly young age. He won Australian championships in 1989 and 1990 as a teenager and turned pro while still in his teens, a feat virtually unheard of in the sport. At just 5 feet 4 inches, Priest possessed genetics that defied explanation, massive arms, a dense, powerful physique, and the ability to transform from an off-season bulk to stage-ready conditioning with remarkable ease. He placed in the top 10 at multiple Mr. Olympias, with his best finish being 6th in 2000. and won shows like the 2006 San Francisco Pro. His Blonde Myth era made him a fan favorite, as did his raw, unfiltered personality and candid discussions about steroid use in a sport that preferred to pretend such things didn't exist. But Lee Priest has faced his own health battles that many fans don't know about. In 2017, he was hospitalized with endocarditis, a serious heart infection that originated from a tooth issue. The condition required significant medical intervention and halted his training temporarily. He has also undergone surgeries for nerve damage that affected his ability to lift. Priest addressed speculation by noting that genetics played a larger role in his success than drugs, and he has been defiant in his recovery, emerging from his health scares with his characteristic honesty and tact. His last competition was the 2013 NABA Universe, though he teased potential comebacks in 2022 physique updates. Now he focuses on commentary, mentorship, and inspiring fans with his transparency about the health costs of the sport, proving that even the most genetically gifted athletes are not immune to the toll that bodybuilding can take. Thank you for watching this video. If you'd like to watch another fascinating video like this, click on one of the boxes on your screen right now.